Recently, I've been reading a book called Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis was one of the most prominent English theologians of the 20th century. He wrote many non-fiction books as well as many fiction books. His most well-known books would be the Chronicles of Narnia series, which a lot of people know. Although some of his books are stories, a lot are non-fiction books that help us understand Christianity and God a lot better. So, to talk more about this theologian, I decided to go to somebody who knows a lot about him, my youth minister, Jeremy Smith.
My name is Jeremy Smith. I am one of the youth and family ministers at Sunset Church of Christ, and C.S. Lewis is my favorite author.
What do you think C.S. Lewis's central ideas in his writings are?
That's a big question, because C.S. Lewis wrote about a lot of different things. But one of the things that I really appreciate about C.S. Lewis is his ability to capture the bigness of what it means to be a Christian, but able to simplify that in a way that is easy to put it in principles and practices. So I would say that for C.S. Lewis, one of the things that he really gets at in just about all of his writings that I've read is what it really means to be a legitimate Christian, like a real Christian, as opposed to there's a lot of fake ideas of what Christianity is supposed to be, and that can branch out to things like your beliefs or your actions or how you think about God. And C.S. Lewis in all of his books really is about trying to help people refine their theology, whether that be their actions or the way they think about morality or the way they think about the doctrine of God. But I think at the core of what C.S. Lewis is trying to talk about is what it means to be a legitimate Christian.
What do you think is the most important thing that C.S. Lewis has contributed to the world of theology?
C.S. Lewis wrote about a lot of different topics, and there's a lot of interesting things and parallels that he draws out of Scripture and paints in a new light that helps Christians kind of see things clearer, I think. One of those is his view of heaven and hell in books like The Great Divorce and his portrayal of God, both in that book and also the Chronicles of Narnia series. But I think that more important than all of that is his view on the Christian life. C.S. Lewis came from a background in which he was an atheist, and so some of his writings, like Mere Christianity, are based around explaining what Christianity is to those who have never really understood Christianity. And so he goes through and in very simple and very pointed ways, he explains really complex theologies in a very down-to-earth kind of way. And so his contributions, I think, to theology is that he takes deep theological subjects, but he doesn't leave them for the theologian. The discussion can actually be down for every person. Anybody can read it, from whether or not you're a kid talking about reading the Chronicles of Narnia, or you are a scholar. C.S. Lewis has thought-provoking things for everyone. So I think his greatest contribution is the ability to make theology available for everyone, which you don't really find that in very many authors today. You either have authors who write very simplistic books, or you have authors who write books that are above people's heads. But C.S. Lewis had a way of taking a complex message and making it for everyone. So I would say that the way he talks about God and the way he talks about how to be a Christian and what it means to be a Christian in the everyday terms is probably his greatest contribution.
What's your favorite book that C.S. Lewis has written?
Personally, my favorite book is The Great Divorce, which is a story about where C.S. Lewis is answering these two extreme questions. One extreme is how this question about the theodicy of God. If God is an all-loving God, why would he sentence people to hell? And on the other extreme, universalism, which says that God will eventually raise everyone from hell, rescue them from hell. But C.S. Lewis doesn't take either of those approaches. And so he answers this question in the middle about, imagine if you could take a bus ride from hell to heaven. What would you experience? And what you find out is that the people who come from hell actually choose themselves to get back on the bus and go back to hell because they don't want to give up something that they own in order to stay in heaven. So they don't want to give up control, or they don't want to give up their love that they have for their son and in order to love God. And so they make the choice to go back. It's a fantastic book.
What book would you recommend for somebody who's never read C.S. Lewis?
I would start off with maybe the Chronicles of Narnia is his most famous work. And so if you're younger and you're looking to kind of get into some good stories, Chronicles of Narnia is a good way to go. If you still like stories, but you want something a little bit deeper and a little more thought-provoking, I would recommend The Great Divorce. That's my favorite book of all time. And if you're looking for something to really introduce you to his theology, I think Mere Christianity is one of his best books. I would recommend it to anyone. And I think with Mere Christianity, what he does is he answers the question of defining what is Christianity all about for those who have never heard it. But he doesn't do it in a simplistic way. He actually really dives into the deep theologies that are found in Christianity. And for instance, his definition and explanation of the Trinity is some of the best that I've ever read. He makes the Trinity something that's easy to understand and comprehend, and he does that with a lot of Christian principles. And so I would recommend starting with one of those three books, either the Chronicles of Narnia series, Great Divorce, or Mere Christianity.
Okay.